Hello and welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream. Part 1 of this box set series of the 2022-2023 Premier League season is coming to an end with the World Cup right around the corner. This will be the last Premier League weekend until the festive period. But before Qatar, we have a cracker for this 5:30 kickoff where we are at St James's Park for the meeting between 4th place Newcastle and 8th place Chelsea. Newcastle coming into this game after scooping up all 4 possible monthly awards from October, winning player, manager, goal and save of the month. But for Chelsea, they travel up north with no win in their last 4 in the league, with back-to-back losses, most recently coming up against Brighton away and Arsenal at home. With contrasting form, this game could either kick Newcastle on for the second half of the season, or could it kickstart Potter again with Chelsea, who look stuck for ideas in their recent matches. So, for the 172nd meeting between these two sides, will Newcastle consolidate a top 4 spot for Christmas, or can Chelsea stop an unwanted record of 3 league losses in a row for the first time since November 2015? This is a huge game before the World Cup. Newcastle on a great run of form under Eddie Howe. Potter and Chelsea, they've started to slip and slide a little bit, but they are missing key players also through injury, the likes of Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Wesley Fofana, N'Golo Kante. Sterling's out ill for today's game. Big names are missing for Chelsea, but they still need to be performing slightly better than what they are at the moment. And it's probably the last place you want to come to as well. It's been quite a fortress so far this season. St James's Park. Haven't lost yet this season at home. They've won 4 and drawn 3. But put your predictions on the poll. Never done a poll before, so I'm doing it today. Prediction: Newcastle Chelsea draw. If you can't see it, if it's not coming down for you, then you just press on the top bit and then it comes down. Cause for some reason, for me, it just comes up with Newcastle on. But I'm very very much looking forward to this game. Obviously, before the Premier League ends for around 40 days, I think it is. Obviously, excited for the World Cup slightly. It's just strange, I think, for all football fans. It's a little bit strange this time because obviously we're used to having the busy schedule start now in the Premier League, but we've kind of had it early. We've had a very busy, summer autumn time, and now we're gonna obviously have a full reset come the festive time where it'll still be busy as well. With a World Cup in the middle, players are going to come back injured. Some might come back different players on form. It might do some players good going to a World Cup mid-season. I don't know, for the likes of Miguel Almiron for Newcastle, this has probably come at the worst point. Not even going to the World Cup because his country, Paraguay, didn't qualify. So it's just, I don't know. It's just strange. It was just really strange for all football fans, but it's something we're having to deal with. But I just think this is going to be a really cracking game. I think the most important thing about this game is for English fans anyway, is we've got 2 English managers in each dugout at 2 massive Premier League clubs, with Newcastle and Chelsea, respectively. 44 years of age, Eddie Howe, Graham Potter's 47. Just 2 young English managers at the top, or near the top of the Premier League with big clubs, I think is great to see for the English game for sure. I'm going to go through the lineups as well in a bit more detail. I know you can see them on screen, but I'm going to go through them currently. Now we're going to start with the home team, and Nick Pope is in goal. Made the World Cup squad for England, has failed to win in any of his 7 previous games against Chelsea. Back 4 of Kieran Trippier, Fabian Schär, Sven Botman and Dan Burn. The only 2 to make the World Cup squads for their respective countries are Kieran Trippier and Fabian Schär. Sven Botman misses out on the World Cup for the Dutch national team. 3 in midfield of Joe Willock on the right of the 3, Sean Longstaff on the left, and Bruno Guimaraes will play as a holding midfielder. Born in Rio de Janeiro, has a Olympic gold medal to his name. Can he maybe add a World Cup to his name as well come the end of December? And front 3 of Joe Linton, we believe he's going to be on the left, even though he has really burst into life in a central midfield spot in the last year through the coaching of Eddie Howe. On the right, we've got Miguel Almiron, Player of the Month winner. He's got 7 in his last 7. He's got 4 goals in his last 4 games in a row. Yet to assist this season, but he's been scoring all the goals, and I think that's all that Eddie Howe will care about. And Chris Wood will play up front as well, signed for £25 million last January. He got his first goal of the season last week against Southampton in the Premier League. And he leads the line ahead of Callum Wilson, who is still recovering from illness, but he'll be fit for the bench, and he will also be fit still to travel with England for the World Cup. So it's only the 2 changes from last week for Newcastle from the Southampton match. Wilson and Murphy dropped to the bench, and Joe Linton, who's back from suspension, and Chris would start for Newcastle. The bench is Carl Darlow, Javier Manquillo, Jamal Lascelles, Matt Targett, John Joe Shelby, Elliot Anderson, Alan St. Maximin, Callum Wilson, and Jacob Murphy make the bench. And for Chelsea, they've got Edouard Mendy in goal. Kepa still not fit to get back in the team and won't be fit to make the World Cup. Cesar Azpilicueta, Kalidou Koulibaly and Trevor Chalobah make up a back 3, a formation they played at Manchester City in midweek. Right wing back Tommy Loftus-Cheek didn't make the World Cup squad despite his versatility, even though he did make the World Cup squad back in 2018 in Russia. Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho play 2 midfielders, with Lewis Hall making his Premier League debut for Chelsea. The 18-year-old is gone in ahead of Cucurella, who is on the bench, who suffered from slight illness, so he could only make the bench over first Premier League start and appearance in general for Lewis Hall. Slough-born wing back, usually plays midfield in the youth squads. Conor Gallagher and Mason Mount were playing just in behind striker Armando Broja, who joined the club at 8 years old. 2 years he'd spent at Spurs before that, and he's been at Chelsea ever since. He's got the 7 Premier League goals in 44 Premier League appearances. None of them have yet come. One has only yet come for Chelsea, and that was against Wolves back in game week 10. Their bench is Marcus Bettinelli, Thiago Silva, Marc Cucurella, Dennis Zakaria, Amari Hutchinson, Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic, Kai Havertz and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is dropped to the bench after his disaster performance against Arsenal, which did not go well for the Gabonese international. As we're close to kick-off here, at St James's Park, can hold just over 52,000 people. It's the 8th largest football stadium in England. We've got referee Robert Jones for today's game. On VAR, we've got Andy Madley, and Dan Cook. Our fourth official is Tim Robinson. There is Graham Potter on the bench alongside his assistants as of Anthony Barr, Billy Reid, Bruno Salter, Bjorn Hamburg. He's got quite a few assistants there. Graham Potter, all brought from Brighton to Chelsea. Here are the 2 captains, Cesar Azpilicueta and Kieran Trippier, having a conversation with referee Robert Jones. Both teams in their home strips as well for tonight's game. The last one for each team before the World Cup in Qatar. Both of those captains will be heading to the World Cup as well. Spain did call upon 33-year-old Cesar Azpilicueta to make the World Cup, and it's his second of his career. As for a lot of teams, this is their last, for all teams, this is their last game before the World Cup, and it means they will make their remembrance mark today. A lot of it happened as well last week for other teams' last home games, and now for teams who have got their last home game this week before the World Cup, they will pay their respects for Remembrance Sunday. As they will mark a minute silence, a display from the Newcastle supporters in their stand that have got banners which create a poppy. Moving scenes on a touching weekend for so many. Kickoff is just under 2 minutes away, as we do pay the respects to all that lost lives during the war. This has been going on up and down the country this week and last week. As Newcastle and Chelsea gather at the centre circle. Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall stand on the edge of their technical area. I can imagine it being deathly quiet up north in Newcastle. Very well observed at St James's Park, as we are moments away from kick-off for Premier League Game Week 16, the last before the World Cup. Newcastle versus Chelsea, 4th versus 8th, in a huge game where neither team will want to end the first half of this season with a loss. You want to go into the break off the back of a win where you can be confident that you want to get straight back into the Premier League action. Chelsea are desperate of a win. They need one. They haven't got one in their last 4. Let's see if they can secure the victory in today's game. It will be Chelsea kick-off with Conor Gallagher. Chelsea kicking left to right. Newcastle right to left for this first half. He's played back to Chalobah, who sends a diagonal ball out towards Broja. Gets there ahead of Fabian Schär. He's brought down within the first 10 seconds. He may have even injured himself here. He has. Fabian Schär does stay down. He was beaten to the ball there by Armando Broja, the man who was on loan at Southampton last year. Wins a free kick within the first 10 seconds. Fabian Schär may have escaped a booking early on. I don't know if he has. Didn't see if Robert Jones got the yellow card out early on. But it was a bit of a dangerous one. He caught the Albanian striker late. The Swiss centre-back is back on his feet. I think he's gone unpunished, mainly because the foul was in the first 10 seconds there from the Swiss international. He's got 72 caps for his country as he enters the World Cup. Made over 100 Premier League appearances now, the Newcastle centre-back, who plays alongside Sven Botman. Got a free kick just over a minute in for Chelsea. Lewis Hall is stood over it alongside Conor Gallagher. As Gallagher, an in-swinger, towards the box. It's flipped on by Azpilicueta towards Loftus-Cheek. Nick Pope in his 6-yard area comes out and collects the number 22 in the Newcastle goal. He'll roll it out to Sean Longstaff. He's bundled to the ground by Loftus-Cheek. And that's seen as a foul and a free kick for Newcastle this time, just inside their own half on the left-hand side. Well dealt with there by Nick Pope, who will be pushing Pickford and Ramsdale for that number 1 spot at the World Cup. Currently on 6 clean sheets for the season in the Premier League. 3 in his last 5. Unbelievable signing, around £10 million he was bought for in the summer. As Newcastle did make 6 summer signings. That does include Botman as well in that defence. Matt Targett was brought in on a permanent deal as well. It's launched forward for Newcastle. Up towards Fabian Schär, who doesn't nod it on. To the edge of the box where Azpilicueta heads away as far as Kieran Trippier. It's now Longstaff. Back to Guimaraes. Ball played forward. Nice football here from Newcastle as they find themselves in the final third. It's crossed in. It's headed away by Koulibaly towards Mason Mount. Back to the Newcastle goal. Finds Jorginho, Hall, Mount. Around the corner looking for Breuer. Doesn't win it off Kieran Trippier. He gets beyond a couple of Chelsea players, then dispossessed by Lewis Hall, who clears up towards Gallagher. Headed on by Cher. Up towards Willock. Taken over by Jorginho in his own half, and then goes back to Azpilicueta, who diverts it back towards his goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy, the Senegalese international. Clips out towards the left-hand side to Lewis Hall, brings down his chest beautifully, tries to get beyond Guimaraes. Does lose out though, but that's because he was fouled illegally. And that'll be a free kick for Chelsea inside their own half, just over 3 minutes in. And Lewis Hall, maybe a future England star. The 18-year-old making his Premier League debut for Chelsea. As we restart with Loftus-Cheek on the right-hand side, goes down the line to Armando Breuer. The flag stays down on the right-hand side, goes back to Loftus-Cheek, who did miss out on a World Cup spot. Jorginho, we know why he's not going to the World Cup. Italy failing to qualify as he sends the ball around the corner, looking for the number 18 Breuer. He's been pulled down there by Joe Linton, but the referee sees nothing wrong with it, and he allows Dan Burn to clear. Goes over the head of Azpilicueta and Wood. It's now with Chalobah, back to Koulibaly. Looks out wide for Loftus-Cheek. I think he was aiming for, but he didn't find him, and Loftus-Cheek has gone down with an injury. Maybe it's a lucky one he's not going to the World Cup. Wonder how that's been picked up there. The ball was aimed towards him. It was nowhere near him by Koulibaly. It's not the fact that Loftus-Cheek was injured. It's because he didn't get there. He stayed down, Loftus-Cheek. Graham Potter will be scratching his head here because he might have to make an early change. He's already got a handful of injuries. Maybe the World Cup coming is fortunate for him. Fabian Schär's also down, and he stayed down. He stayed down from the foul he made on Breuer early on. It was more of a head. That's an interesting one for Fabian Schär. He went to head the ball away from Breuer, missed the ball and headed Breuer's hip, and that's why he's sustained his injury, Fabian Schär. Loftus-Cheek, I'm not quite sure what was wrong with him. Looks like a right leg issue, maybe the right calf. Not too sure. Fabian Schär stayed down. He might just need a minute to kind of get his bearings back. Obviously, players not wanting to take risks before the World Cup. Thiago Silva is being stripped because that would mean Azpilicueta, the 33-year-old, would move to right back, and Thiago Silva would join the back three alongside Trevor Chalobah and Kalidou Koulibaly. Jamal Lascelles also just having a slight warm-up just in case he's called upon for Fabian Schär, who looks like he might be able to continue. Absolute steal of a signing, Fabian Schär, back in 2018, bought for £3 million. He's got the one goal so far this season. That came against Nottingham Forest on the opening day, where they won 2-0. So, Loftus-Cheek, it's unfortunate. He's making his way down the tunnel. Early change so far. Thiago Silva not able to be brought on yet, as Fabian Schär re-emerges onto the pitch as well. Looks like he'll be able to continue the Swiss international. Chelsea out from the back. They've nearly been caught there. Trevor Chalobah being tackled fairly, but in the end, the poke challenge from Joe Linton fell back to a Chelsea player. They could clear off a Newcastle man, and a throw-in it is for Chelsea. High press from the Toon. There's Thiago Silva comes on. Loftus-Cheek off. Thiago Silva on, the 38-year-old. 99 appearances now for Chelsea. One away from the 100. Got a contract until 2023, but he has discussed how he, maybe wants to extend his stay at Chelsea. As the throw-ins down the line towards Mason Mount. Chests it down, can't get beyond Bruno Guimaraes. And he'll be back to Nick Pope. As Fabian Schär's back on. It looks like he will continue alongside Sven Botman at the back. 7 minutes gone. Still Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0 at St James's Park. I said in the pre-match dialogue, Chelsea haven't lost 3 Premier League games on the bounce since October and to November of 2015, where they lost 3 games under Mourinho from the 24th of October to the 7th of November. They were beaten by West Ham away, Liverpool at home and Stoke away. The last two they have lost were to Brighton away and Arsenal at home. Not great performances as well for Potter, which would have worried him. And as he said in his press conference yesterday, he does expect a tough game, like anyone will when they come to St James's Park this season. Like I said, they're unbeaten at home so far this season. 4 wins, 3 draws. They've got 6 wins as well in their last 7. The one game they didn't win was a draw away at Old Trafford to Manchester United. They've scored 11 and only conceded 2 in the last 5. It's headed forward by Dan Burn. Nearly finds Joe Willock. He does tackle Jorginho in midfield, and Chris Wood forces out wide to Miguel Almiron, the main man for Newcastle. 1-on-1 with Lewis Hall. Goes back to Trippier, who goes for the first time cross, blocked by Mount, still loops in the air into the box. Kovacic heads away towards Breuer, who's battling with Fabian Schär, and he gets it ahead of the Swiss international in the Chelsea half. He then plays it out wide to Azpilicueta, who's now at right wing back. Down the line, he goes towards Conor Gallagher. He misses out, and Botman can get it back to Nick Pope in the Newcastle 18-yard box. Did make 3 saves in the shootout in the week, Nick Pope, when they played Crystal Palace. In the third round, it was a 0-0 draw after 90 minutes and then won 3-2 on penalties. And we know for Chelsea, they were beaten away at the Etihad by 2-0. Mahrez and Alvarez with goals there. Throw in for Newcastle inside their own half. Kieran Trippier, the captain, joined in January of 2022 for £12 million. He's also only got the 1 goal this season so far. That was against Manchester City at home in that 3-3 draw. Last season, Chelsea did do the league double over Newcastle, beating them 3-0 at St James's Park and then the 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. It was a late winner as well from Kai Havertz in March to get that 1-0 win for Chelsea to help them cement their top 4 spot, which they got last year. They finished 3rd on 74 points. They ended up being 3 ahead of 4th place. They did spend 9 games top of the pile last season, Chelsea, but they couldn't keep it up. They weren't consistent enough throughout the whole season. 10 minutes in, no real clear-cut chances for either team so far. Ball played into Miguel Almiron. He's allowed to turn forward and race forward. It's now Will Longstaff on the right-hand side. Plays into Trippier down the byline. He keeps it in, but he's offside, says the linesman. And it'll be a free kick for Chelsea, to the relief of their defence, because Kieran Trippier had got him behind there if it wasn't for the offside flag. The 4 clean sheets, though, so far for Chelsea. I'll be surprised if they find another one. The Trippier was onside. The trailing left foot of Trevor Chalobah had kept Trippier onside there. That's a poor call there from the linesman. It remains 0-0. 3 wins and 2 draws came in Potter's first 5 Premier League games for Chelsea. Now he's got 0 wins in his last 4. Newcastle are back in possession. Trippier down the line, looking for Almiron. Bounces off the leg of Lewis Hall, and it'll be a throw-in for Newcastle in the Chelsea half as they look to get forward and implement some pressure onto the Chelsea backline that's already had to be changed from the start after Loftus-Cheek came off injured. Great ball in behind, looking for Longstaff by Guimaraes, but he was just hit too heavy. And it goes out for a goal kick for Chelsea, for Edouard Mendy. Ferland Mendy, who plays for Real Madrid, is his cousin. He's a French international. And he has a goal kick. He goes short to Thiago Silva, who of course makes the Brazil national squad for the World Cup, despite being at the age of 38. Azpilicueta down the line to Conor Gallagher, tries to get the return, doesn't get the return. The Spaniard is picked up by Joe Linton. It's now Joe Willock in the Chelsea half. Joe Linton gets out wide to Dan Burn, who's got forward the fullback. He goes back to Bruno Guimaraes, the former Lyon man, joined in January. What a signing he's been for £36 million. Almiron tries a 1-2 with Trippier, doesn't come off, and Kovacic can bring it away, the Croatian. On the left-hand side, enters the Newcastle half with a ball down the line, looking for Armando Breuer, and he wins it ahead of Sven Botman and tries to take on the Dutchman. Can't quite do so, he pokes it away momentarily, but Armando Breuer kept it. And it's still in Chelsea possession on the halfway with Kalidou Koulibaly. He finds Jorginho, his former Napoli teammate, before they both reconciled together at Chelsea. Gallagher, poor touch, but just about keeps it under his spell on the halfway line for Chelsea. Enjoying a bit of possession. With Mendy. Tries to look for Conor Gallagher. Miscontrolled by Dan Burn, and Edouard Mendy gets away with his poor clearance up the field, and it'll be a throw-in for Chelsea. You do have a good record recently against Newcastle United. In the last 9 meetings in the Premier League, Chelsea have won 7. 4 wins in a row currently against Newcastle in the Premier League, 7 in the last 8. As Lewis Hall gets the ball in the box, it's cleared by Fabian Schär. So it is a positive record and a positive team to play for Chelsea on record. But on recent form in the Premier League, it's probably not the team they want to play. And in all competitions in the last 12 against Newcastle, they have won 10. But their record at St James Park has been pretty even. 3 wins and 2 losses in the last 5 for Chelsea. Just leads many questions to how this game will go. Dan Burn slams it round the corner. Joe Linton will give chase as he's playing left wing tonight. Chalobah will get there first, plays it to Mendy, who looks for Azpilicueta on the right, who does bring it down and gets it back inside to Jorginho. Deep inside the Chelsea half, they have to play out from the back. It's now back with Mendy, who sometimes is unsure on distribution, as he finds Lewis Hall, who heads it inside, can't find Mason Mount. It will fall to Bruno Guimaraes, but I think the referee's called a foul on Trippier, as he just nudged into Lewis Hall as he won the header from the Mendy clipped ball out wide. Newcastle have only conceded 1 loss so far this season. That came away at Liverpool away, where they lost in the 98th minute to Fabio Carvalho in a 2-1 loss. Their main summer signing, Alexander Isak, scored in that game. He's been out for quite a while now with injuries. Koulibaly gives it away so sloppily from the free kick. Looked for Mount, didn't find him, and Newcastle can break away. It's now Joe Willock, former Arsenal man, on the ball. He's looking for his options on his left. He finds Joe Linton. 15 minutes in, it's still Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. No major chances so far, no real testing of either keeper. Still Joe Willock on the left, being forced back to Sven Botman, the Dutch international, signed from Lille in the summer. Joe Linton. Dan Burn finds the run of Joe Willock out wide on the left. He's 1-on-1 with Azpilicueta. Goes around the outside on his left side. Finds a cross in towards the far post, headed away by Koulibaly. Only as far as Almiron, who strikes over the bar. That's the first major chance of the game. It falls to the man that all Newcastle fans want it to fall to, and that's Miguel Almiron. On his left foot, he blazes it over. It's good work, though, by Willock to outmuscle Azpilicueta. He lifted it towards Chris Wood at the far post, header won by Koulibaly. Only as far as Almiron, who struck the volley cleanly, but straight into the Newcastle crowd. As it stays Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. It's the first major chance of the game. Almiron looking for his 8th goal in his 8th game. That would have been 5 in a row. Chelsea play out from the back. So Jorginho's been clipped from behind by Joe Linton. And that'll be a free kick for Chelsea in their own half. Joe Linton apologises. He sees how that was a foul on Jorginho. As we see there, Callum Wilson warming up on the bench. He came off at half-time against Southampton due to illness, and he's been training individually all week, says Eddie Howe. But on his World Cup call-up, he did say it's an amazing thing for him individually, and I'm sure his family. He also said Callum's had a difficult career. It's not always been about the successes. He's had huge successes, and he's risen from the lower leagues to the Premier League, and now the national squad at the World Cup. That's what he said in his press conference, Eddie Howe. So heaps of praise for the striker who sits on the bench for this one, 30 years of age. It's a late call-up. He's not played for England since 2019. That was his last appearance in October of 2019, and a 6-0 away win to Bulgaria. Hopefully we'll get to see him before the World Cup for Newcastle tonight. That's why Chris Wood starts. And he's also got a horrid record against Newcastle, Chris Wood. 0 wins in the 9 games he's played against Chelsea. As we're on the halfway line with Trevor Chalobah, goes back to his goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy. He's played Newcastle 3 times, won all 3, and kept 3 clean sheets as well in the process. Lewis Hall plays the ball down the line for Mason Mount. It's a great ball. He's in the Newcastle half. He gets it back into Lewis Hall. Returns the favour for the number 67, who goes for the attempted cross, but he goes over the bar. Wasted from the young 18-year-old. He has a brother who plays for Chorley in the 6th tier of English football. But despite Lewis Hall playing left wing back for the senior team for Chelsea, he does usually play more centrally in the youth setup. He plays 75 minutes as well against Manchester City in the week. Lewis Hall could have had a few goals, stopped by Stefan Ortega for Manchester City. Nick Pope sends the goal kick up towards Chris Wood. It's left by him and Thiago Silva and can be hooked away by Kalidou Koulibaly towards Breuer. Loses the header on Botman. It's now Guimaraes into Almiron. Now Trippier down the line. Here is the Paraguayan international. Finds it inside to Guimaraes. 1-2 is attempted, but it's too heavy again. Goal kick for Chelsea. It's a couple of times now that Bruno Guimaraes has overhit the pass and has give Chelsea a free goal kick. But what a success for him. Guimaraes called up to the Brazil team for the World Cup. He's got a good record in the Premier League as well. In his previous 28 games that he's played in this competition, he's got 18 wins. But it's Chelsea with possession on the edge of the 18-yard box with Thiago Silva. Plays it forward to Conor Gallagher. Goes across to Trevor Chalobah. There's Newcastle press high. Back into the Chelsea 18-yard box of Mendy, who has to hurry a clearance up the field, past the halfway line towards Breuer. Can't win the header on Cher. Or as far as Jorginho, who nods it out wide again. Can't find a blue shirt, and it's now a throw-in on the halfway line with Dan Burn. Throws it into Guimaraes. Goes back to Botman and across to Fabian Cher, who has stayed on despite the collision he had on his head with the hip of Breuer. 10 seconds into the match. As Koulibaly brings down Almiron, that will be a free kick just on the halfway line. For Newcastle United, 20 minutes in, we've had the one chance. Came in around the 15th minute, and it was through Almiron who volleyed over the crossbar after it was well worked for Newcastle down their left-hand side with Joe Willock, who's had a positive start to the game himself. We stay at 0-0. Trippier stands over the free kick on the halfway line. Who was at City from 1999 to 2012. Spent a lot of his youth at City. Trippier, as his free kick has been well built, and it's sent Almiron away on the right. Has to hold it up. And he finds Guimaraes, who nearly gets caught in possession by Jorginho, but he just about keeps it. Goes back to Cher. And then once more to Sven Botman. He spent time at Ajax from 2009 to 2020. The Dutch centre-half, who did play Chelsea twice last season in the Champions League knockout stages. And they lost both times. Lille. Mount loses the ball to Trippier. The referee says he got the ball, so play will continue. As we cross into the Chelsea half here with Dan Burn, the left back. Finds Joe Linton. Ball inside to Joe Willock. Loses out with a heavy touch, and it's now back in Chelsea possession as they quickly play out from the back. And Mendy hurries a clearance. Ooh, that's a heavy landing there for Sven Botman. As the ball went up towards Armando Breuer, they both missed the ball, and Breuer kind of knocked Sven Botman out of the sky, and he landed heavily. Let's have a look again. It was there to be won. Breuer just kind of backed in towards Botman. And as he's jumping, he then lands awkwardly. I don't like it when strikers do that. It can cause major damage for the defenders who are jumping for the ball when they decide to back into them. Thankfully, Sven Botman's up already, and he will be okay. But he's just discussing with the ref the possible dangers that come with fouls like that. But say if Chelsea do go on to lose this game or not win, that'll be 5 in the Premier League without a win. And the next 3 games after the World Cup will be Bournemouth at home, Nottingham Forest away, and then City at home. But those first two games back, Bournemouth and Forest, Potter have got to look at them and think they've got to get 6 out of 6. And that may lead to momentum going into that game against City at home on the 5th of January. And they may be able to think, if we win those 2 against Bournemouth and Forest, we have confidence to go and beat City. They do need to turn their poor form around pretty quickly, because when you're at a club like Chelsea, chances don't last long. So we're back underway with Chelsea. Deep inside their own half, Koulibaly plays it down the line, looking for Mount. He takes under control nicely, keeps it away from Guimaraes, as he's caught very late by the Brazilian, and that will be a free kick for Chelsea. Tried to poke the ball away from the midfielder there, Mount, and he was caught with a collision with the Brazilian. And he won himself a free kick there, Mason Mount. Thanks to everyone who's able to like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. As they've already lost the ball, Chelsea, and it's Almiron to break away into the feet of Chris Wood. Tries to let it off into Longstaff. Loses out to Hall. It's now with Gallagher, Chalobah, Thiago Silva out to Hall again on the left. Clips it away from Kieran Trippier. That'll be a free kick. Caught Hall late there, the experienced right back. And Kieran Trippier knew that. Kovacic on the halfway. It's now Thiago Silva. Aspilicueta at right wing back. Goes down the line to Conor Gallagher. Pushed in the back, is he? By Sven Botman. No, says the referee. No free kick. To the frustration of Conor Gallagher. There'll be a Newcastle throw-in. Taken quickly by Byrne to Joe Linton, who then goes back to Botman and across his 18-yard box to Fabian Schär, who did look for a ball to Almiron inside the Chelsea half, but couldn't quite keep it in play. The Paraguayan international, who, by the way, he's on 8 Premier League goals this season, and in his first 3.5 Premier League seasons, he'd only scored 9. So if he scores today, Almiron, he will match in goals his last 3.5 seasons in the first half of this one. Crazy. As Joe Willock bursts away as he wins the ball for Newcastle. Tries to take on Chalobah in the box. He can't quite do so. It's cleared then by Aspilicueta, who helps out his centre half. It's cleared as far as Botman, who tries to get it back to Pope. It's not the greatest of passes back. He has to chase it himself. And just about gets there ahead of Breuer, who's chased it down. But then they lose out to Aspilicueta as Byrne can't keep it for Newcastle. Breuer tries to get away from Botman. Can't quite do so. Throw in for Chelsea. We've got 3 votes now. We've got 2 for Newcastle, and we've got 1 for a draw. It's thrown down the line for Newcastle, won by Chalobah ahead of Joe Linton. It's now with Kovacic. Halfway inside the Newcastle half. He finds then Jorginho. Chalobah back to halfway we go with Thiago Silva. First time pass into former Real Madrid man Kovacic. He's looking towards the right hand side and does find Aspilicueta. Tries to go down the line for Conor Gallagher. Blocked off by Dan Byrne, formerly of Brighton. The 6'6" centre back and left back. Was released by Newcastle at the age of 11. Dan Byrne, but now he's back at his boyhood club. The club he grew up supporting. A team he also doesn't do well against. Dan Byrne played against Chelsea 7 times and hasn't won. Cleared up the field by Edouard Mendy for Chelsea. Up towards Breuer. Can't win the header against Botman. Falls towards Kovacic. Koulibaly is one who takes over. Plays it towards Mount, who slips, and then it falls through to Guimaraes in the Newcastle half. Longstaff to Trippier. Forward to Guimaraes. Great ball. Then out wide to Longstaff. Good play here from Newcastle. It's the first time clears from Longstaff. It's a one that is adventurous, and he looks towards Joe Linton. He will keep it in towards the corner flag on the left-hand side, and goes back to Joe Willock. Inside to Guimaraes. Back out to Joe Linton. Left-footed cross in towards Almiron. Well met by Koulibaly. Cleared on as far as Schär. And is now back in possession for Newcastle. Good defending though from Koulibaly. It's now Joe Linton. Plays it inside to Guimaraes on the edge of the box. In the box he goes. Can he work chance for a shot? He tries to lay it off instead to Almiron. Cleared by Chelsea out for a throw in for Newcastle. Some real pressure now hitting Chelsea as Newcastle find their groove. Interestingly enough for Newcastle at the start of the season, they only got 1 win in their first 7 Premier League games. And that was on the opening day to Nottingham Forest. Because in that first 7, they didn't lose many. They only lost the 1 to Liverpool. They drew 5. Thankfully, they've turned away from drawing matches and are now winning them consistently. That's why they've creeped up the table all the way to 4th. A win would put them 3rd. Koulibaly and Lewis Hall, some good 1-2s there to deal with the press of Newcastle. And they go back to Edouard Mendy. He then finds Trevor Chalobah in the Chelsea 18-yard box. Out it goes to Azpilicueta. Inside to Jorginho. Forward to Mount, breaking the lines beautifully. As Newcastle have to trap back. Mount gets it out wide to Lewis Hall. He's in the final third now for Chelsea. In the box, he gets it inside to Breuer, who spins and shoots. And it's an easy save for Nick Pope. I think that's Chelsea's first shot of the game, if I'm going to be honest. Don't recall them having many more. As Newcastle giving it away to Kovacic. Forward to Conor Gallagher. Back out to Lewis Hall again, who set up Breuer there. And he's gone down. He's stayed on his feet, actually. Despite being tackled by Almiron, then he's fouled by, then tackled by Almiron fairly. And Newcastle need to get it away. The only shot Newcastle have had was Almiron's volley over the bar. And that first shot from Breuer was the first for Chelsea in the entire game. So it's not been the most eventful one for chances, but it has been pretty even. Both teams having spells on the ball. Free kick for Newcastle in their own half. Joe Willock being brought down. But it was good play from Chelsea there. Jorginho found a great ball to Mason Mount, who then took big strides to get deep inside the Newcastle half. He laid it off to Lewis Hall, and then found Breuer back to go in the box, turned, shot. It was an easy save in the end for Nick Pope. Another free kick there for Newcastle. Jorginho this time leaving a heavy one on Bruno Guimaraes. He's not happy with that one, and neither are the Newcastle players. Guimaraes has stayed down. Wonder what take Rob Jones will have on this, the referee. Let's have a look how it occurred. Cher got a ball to Guimaraes. Yeah, a intended heavy touch by Guimaraes to get away from Jorginho was well executed, but then he couldn't quite get beyond the Italian because he brought him down or stepped right on the top of his foot. That will be a sore one for the Brazilian and a rightly given yellow card. Good decision from the referee. Trod on the top of the foot of Guimaraes. Half an hour in, one shot each for both sides. Neither of them really testing either keeper. The Newcastle one flew over the bar, and then the one for Chelsea was on target, but it was an easy save for Nick Pope. Very, very easy. And for Nick Pope, he's got the same amount of wins in the Premier League than he has clean sheets. In his Premier League career, he's picked up 52 wins and 155 appearances. That goes alongside 52 clean sheets. As we've got a Trippier free kick where Chelsea have got a very, very high line. Trippier will stick it in behind that high line. Thiago Silva will win the header, only as far as Longstaff, but the play stopped as there was an offside in the free kick. Very, very good high line from Chelsea. It was well executed as well. Could have caused a bit of danger there for Chelsea if Newcastle had exploited it successfully. Chelsea out from the back to Thiago Silva towards Koulibaly on the left. Can't keep it in despite sliding towards it. Throw in for Newcastle on that right hand side of theirs near the corner flag. Throw-in's taken by Trippier to Almiron. Finds Guimaraes. Now Fabian Schär, who will bring it forward slightly and then go back across to Sven Botman. Ball forward in between the lines. Finds Joe Willock. 1-2 with Chris Wood. Forward into Longstaff on the edge of the box. He's going to pull the trigger. Gets out to Trippier. Gets it towards the near post. It's collected by Mendy. Chris Wood was making a late burst towards the front post to try and get a touch onto it, but in the end it did fall into the grasp of Edouard Mendy. Chelsea power from the back. Great ball from Conor Gallagher around the corner to Armando Breuer, who nearly got beyond Bruno Guimaraes, but he just booted the ball out for a Chelsea throw-in, not taking any risks there, the Brazilian midfielder. Azpilicueta with the throw. deep inside the Newcastle half. He then threw it back to Trevor Chalobah on the halfway line now. His passing set by Joe Linton, gets it inside to Wood, who finds Willock. Now Longstaff has no options. Guimaraes in the midfield, loses out. It's too tight in there, and in the end, Conor Gallagher, who tried to bring it away, was tackled by Longstaff, whose poke went all the way back to Nick Pope, and Newcastle would start again from the back, and then now got it with Joe Willock on the left, who's had a really positive first 33 minutes of the game. It's back in Newcastle possession. Guimaraes again, misplaced ball. Collected by Mendy in the 18-yard box. But just interestingly enough, I was looking at Eddie Howe's quotes for the press conference yesterday. I was just interested what people and managers are going to do during the break for their teams who have got players still, at the club and not going to the international duty. And Eddie Howe said that the players will have some scheduled downtime where they can have a couple of weeks away, he said roughly. And then when they return, they will have a mini 4-week pre-season. So it's almost like a new season is beginning when they return, even though it's in the middle of a season. It's just interesting what managers will do. It does seem like they're going to allow the players to have 2-3 weeks break, and then as soon as they're back, it's like a pre-season where they need to get back up to speed and to carry on their pre-season. They have to do it pretty quickly because obviously, despite there being a break, it's not the longest break, because once that World Cup starts, I think it'll run pretty quick. As Nick Poe works it to Trippier on the edge of the 18-yard box, Fabian Schär. His clearance is really poor. It deflects off Kovacic, but thankfully for Schär, it falls to Guimaraes. And Newcastle still on the ball. He sweeps it out wide left to Dan Burn. Takes it on the turn very nicely. Enters the Chelsea half on the left-hand side. He's got options to his left, and that's Joe Willock, and he will use the former Arsenal man. He's one-on-one Joe Willock on the edge of the box with Kovacic. He goes across to Guimaraes from afar, fancies a strike. It deflects into the hands of Edouard Mendy. Another shot, not very dangerous. Again, easily dealt with Edouard Mendy. He throws it out wide left to Lewis Hall, the left wing back, making his Premier League debut. The 18-year-old. Down the line it goes to Mason Mount. It's a great pass from the youngster. Mason Mount looks for a ball in the box towards Armando Broja. It's a really vital header out by Botman for a corner. It was going towards the head of the Albanian, who was in the box, looking to divert the header towards goal, but he wasn't allowed to by the Dutchman, who nodded behind for a corner kick for Chelsea. Good defending by the Dutchman, aged 22 now, won the French League title back in the 2020-2021 season. So it'll be a corner for Chelsea to take. I believe this is their first of the game, and the first of the game in general. Robert Jones just wants a word with Azpilicueta, who we know is known for his actions in the box. He likes to just make a nuisance of himself and get in the way, because at the height of 5'10", he's not really going to be winning too many headers. But over the corner kick, is Lewis Hall, and I think Mason Mount. So they've got a left-footed and a right-footed option. Who will it be? Got under 10 minutes to go with this first half. It's been cagey. It's been a team. Been between two teams who want the win but don't want to lose. It's an in-swinger from Lewis Hall near the head of Chalobah. He is headed away by a Newcastle man. It will trickle all the way through to Mason Mount on the halfway, who's the furthest back for Chelsea, other than Edouard Mendy, who he plays it back towards. He then clips it towards the right-hand side, towards Gallagher. Can't win the header. And it will fall over to Dan Burn at left back, as everyone is back in their positions from the corner. And Newcastle want to build from their defence. And this is the first time Newcastle would have been playing as a top 3 team since November of 2011. They lost to Man City that day, who were league leaders. But unfortunately, Tottenham's win put them back down to 4th. As Newcastle have built up very nicely from the back. Almiron to the overlap of Trippier. Byline, finds a cross. Head on by Gallagher, only as far as Trippier, who returns a ball. No, he doesn't. He finds Almiron on the right-hand side, who goes back to Guimaraes, who swings it in towards the far post. Headed won by Azpilicueta. Not towards Mason Mount, but it'll fall to Trippier. He nods back to Fabian Schär as Newcastle start again. Swiss international. Goes to his centre-back partner, Sven Botman. Trippier Down the line first time. What a ball that is to Almiron. He finds Longstaff. He puts a ball in and it's come off the right foot of Thiago Silva. Corner kick for Newcastle. Moments after Chelsea getting their first corner of the game, Newcastle strive to earn theirs. Koulibaly caught in two minds whether to go to Almiron or watch the run of Longstaff. He kind of went between both, put pressure on Almiron and also watched the run of Longstaff. And as Longstaff got the ball in the box, it couldn't find Chris Wood. Found the foot of the Brazilian Thiago Silva. And it'll be Trippier to take the corner. It'll be an outswinger with his right boot. Can he cause havoc and danger for Chelsea? Trippier goes low. It's miskicked by Cher, but it falls to the edge of the box to Joe Willock. Blocked. And it will fall on the head of Longstaff. And Fabian Cher really messed up that corner routine. Trippier put it in low. Cher had peeled away. And he was just a bit off balance as he was going to swing for it. And then in the end, the Willock shot was blocked and Chelsea dealt with the corner. But it was, intuitive thinking by Trippier in Newcastle as they regain the ball from a really shoddy clearance from Chelsea. Falls straight to Cher. It's now with Guimaraes outside the boot ball, out wide to Dan Burn, to Willock. Just outside just in front of the technical areas there. Conor Gallagher intercepts a Newcastle pass, but it's won back by Guimaraes. Then Burn to Botman. Joe Linton on the halfway. Lays it off into Guimaraes. Through the gap to Longstaff, who handles the ball. He was brought down, but it wasn't a foul, so he's put his hand on the ball thinking that he's going to win the free kick. He didn't win the free kick, and that's a free kick for Newcastle in the end. Yeah, tried to twist, turn, couldn't get away from the three blue shirts around him. And again, an awful ball given away by Chelsea. Burn found Willock. Great ball out wide right to Almiron. He takes it down beautifully. Finds Joe Linton out wide to Longstaff, who pulls it across. It goes all the way to Dan Burn on the left-hand side of the box. Struck towards the Chelsea goal, but it was blocked, I think, by Azpilicueta in the end. Dan Burn still yet to score for Newcastle. Good ball that by Longstaff, getting it across the goal. It found Dan Burn, who pulled the trigger. It was blocked actually by Conor Gallagher, who went for the block alongside Azpilicueta. Trippier took from the opposite side, and he'll take from this side as well. So this will be an in-swinger for the Englishman. He's currently on 3 assists this season so far. Short one with Almiron, gets the return, puts it in towards the far post. It's well caught and well handled by Edouard Mendy. As we're nearing half-time, and it's still Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. Newcastle probably been more dominant with possession, but shots have been minimal for both teams. Newcastle have had 3, both off target, all 3 off target. As Mount keeps possession in his own half for Chelsea and fires the switch out towards Azpilicueta. Inside it goes to Conor Gallagher. Back he has to go to Chalobah, who's on the right of the back 3. It's now Thiago Silva, pressed by Joe Linton, but does get it out to Conor Gallagher, who's on the right. He's found himself central on the pitch, but he's been dispossessed by Joe Willock. And Newcastle can build again before half-time. They're putting extra pressure on Chelsea, but not yet testing the goalkeeper. Guimaraes strides forward with the ball, lays it off into Longstaff on the right. Finds Almiron, first time pass towards Guimaraes, heavy touch, it falls to Jorginho, who finds Conor Gallagher, who's fouled by Guimaraes, and that'll be a free kick for Chelsea in their own half. Failed to create a chance there, Newcastle. Koulibaly with Kovacic. Thiago Silva in the 18-yard box. Still Newcastle pressing high. And Edouard Mendy has to go long towards Breuer. Comes off the back of the head of Byrne and does fall to the Albanian striker in the end, who's then tackled by Dan Byrne. The ball trickles down the line out for a throw-in for Chelsea in their own half. Down the line it goes. Breuer chases. It's cleared in the end by Newcastle towards Chris Wood, who nearly gets the better of Chalobah. It's well defended, though, by the youngster, Trevor Chalobah. He's 20 years of age now. 23 years of age. I apologise. It's now back in Newcastle possession with Fabian Schär. Sorry. Apologies. At the back. Guimaraes, 1-2 of Almiron. Then they work it out wide to Dan Byrne, just inside the Newcastle half. All Chelsea players behind the ball. Defending resolutely. They clip it out wide right to Kieran Trippier. Back inside to Guimaraes. Almiron. Inside to the Brazilian once again. Just going back to Fabian Schär, just relaxing the play. And he looks to find Almiron in behind in the box. Overhit again. Finds the gloves of Chelsea's goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy. Edouard Mendy kicks out of his hands. Looking for Mason Mount. Comes off the top of his head. And it will trickle away for a throw-in for Chelsea. For Newcastle in their own half. So it'll be Trippier to take the throw-in. It's quite a big one in towards Guimaraes. He's made a forward run and he keeps the ball and gets it to Almiron on the right. Avoids the challenge of Lewis Hall and goes back head inside to Longstaff. He looks wide left for Dan Byrne. Goes once more to Joe Willock. Goes back to Dan Byrne. I wonder how much is going to be added on. Not much has happened. I wonder if there'll be much added on. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes. With Loftus-Cheek coming off in the 5th minute with an injury. That took a few minutes to get that dealt with. Guimaraes on the right. To Trippier. Back to Schär on halfway. Dan Byrne. Forward to Joe Linton, who is on the left-hand side still. Tricking Azpilicueta, thinking he's going one way, then he goes the other. So he avoids the Spaniards challenging. And he keeps it and he looks for a ball forward to Longstaff, who brings it down nicely and keeps it very nicely. As we've got 2 minutes of added on time at the end of this second half, which has been stuck for big chances, but it has been an interesting one between these two English managers of Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. It's now Joe Linton, around 30 yards away from goal, goes inside to Guimaraes, looks for a ball out towards Trippier on the right, again misplaced by the Brazilian midfielder, and Chelsea can break between Lewis Hall and Mason Mount. They're doing a good job of it so far, and they find Kovacic inside the Croatian, who looks then back out wide towards Lewis Hall. It's an awful pass from the former Inter Milan and Real Madrid midfielder, and Newcastle could maybe try and break with a minute to go. It's Almiron on the right-hand side. They've got bodies forward here. Newcastle, it's now a Trippier. The right back playing as a right winger currently. Ball inside to Guimaraes. Back out to Trippier once again. Has to go across him to Longstaff. 45 seconds left. Still 0-0 at St James's Park. Botman brings it forward. Then goes out wide to Dan Byrne, the number 33. For the Magpies. Joe Linton to Willock. Down the byline goes Dan Byrne. He pulls it across. It comes off the hand of Trevor Chalobah. No corner. I mean, it is a corner. No penalty. Robert Jones saying that his hand was on the floor as like the motion of sliding, so he couldn't get his hand out of the way. Yeah, it comes off his hand and his arm's out, but he's just doing, you know, the motion of a slide challenge. I just think that would have been unfair if that was given. He wasn't intentionally out to block the pullback. He was just genuinely sliding to block the ball, just in the sliding motion. I think that's the right decision. I think that would have been harsh, personally. Last chance of the half. Newcastle corner. It'll be an in-swinger from Kieran Trippier, the former Atletico Madrid fullback. The captain. It's an in-swinger towards the far post. It's won by Joe Linton right over the crossbar. And that'll be that for the first half. It ends Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. In the first half, which has lacked major chances, unfortunately. The first major incident of the game was around the 5th minute, where unfortunately Ruben Loftus-Cheek had to be replaced by Thiago Silva after picking up an injury on his right leg. Then the first major chance, and only, I'd say, really big chance, came from Almiron 16 minutes in. It was well worked down the left-hand side by Newcastle. It was clipped in by Joe Willock. It was cleared by Koulibaly, only as far as Almiron towards the edge of the box, who then thumped a left-footed volley towards goal, but it blazed over the crossbar. Other than that, no real chances. Newcastle have had 5 shots, 0 on target. Chelsea have had one on target. That was for Armando Broja around 20-25 minutes in, where he spun shot straight at Pope. No real talking point with that. So other than that, a lack of chances. It's been a cagey game. So at half-time, it is Chelsea keeping Newcastle at bay at half-time. It's Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. Lack of chances, but hopefully that'll change in the second half. But we've got a 15-minute break currently to see if any half-time chats between the two managers can change their team's performance. We've also got another game as well tonight in Wolves and Arsenal. Wolves now sitting bottom of the league. Obviously, they're waiting for Julian Lopetegui to join, and he'll be joining after the World Cup. Arsenal are now 2 points clear of the Premier League with a game in hand. So if they win that game away at Wolves, they will go 5 points clear for the break, and they'll be top at Christmas. Tomorrow we've got 2 games as well to finish off the Premier League first chapter, you could say, of this season. Brighton welcome Aston Villa, who are now under Unai Emery. 1 win, 1 loss, both coming against Manchester United in the Premier League and the League Cup. Brighton look to have been picking up their form as well under new manager De Zerbi. So that'll be an interesting watch. And then at 4:30, Fulham will welcome Manchester United. Fulham obviously doing really well this season. They currently sit 9th in the table. Obviously, a lot of teams have played more games than them already. They've had a positive start. They welcome United, who are 5th, and a win for them wouldn't move them up the table any so beyond Newcastle, even if Newcastle lose. But they could go to 1, 2, 3 points behind Newcastle if they win, depending on the result here today. So another incentive for United as well, and to also make up for the loss that they did pick up last weekend against Newcastle, against South Aston Villa away from home. But yeah, lack of chances, unfortunately, in that game so far. Obviously, we had Almiron blazing over the crossbar, and you'd think with his form that that maybe he could have scored. Obviously, he's got 7 in his last 7, and if he scores today, that'll be 5 goals in a row as well, which is very impressive. Only got the 1 goal last season in 30 Premier League matches, Almiron. How crazy is that for the Paraguayan? Yet to score or assist against Chelsea in his 6 previous appearances. It's also appearance number 125 for him in the Premier League, which is a good milestone to hit as well. For Almiron, who's now 28 years old, so if he needed to start performing, it was probably now heading towards his peak years. But I wonder how they'll dissect that first half on Sky Sports, because, do you know what I mean? I don't know how much there is to say. They've gone straight away to highlight the Newcastle press, which, to be fair, is a good point. I will mention that the Newcastle press has been very good. They've forced Chelsea having to go long towards Armando Broja a lot, because if they lose the ball high up the pitch, they press. If Chelsea decide to go back themselves, they get up the pitch and press high quickly. So it has been impressive, the Newcastle press. And you'd expect at home, with momentum and adrenaline, they're able to keep it up for the majority of the match as well. But it is something that Chelsea are struggling to deal with at times, but then also other times they have been able to get through. I remember during the first half, they got it inside to Jorginho, who then worked it out to Mount, who then went to Lewis Hall. And that's where the chance was made. They're just showing it here. The Broja chance 30 minutes into the game where the ball was found to Mount. He then laid it off to Lewis Hall, who drove forward, played inside to Broja, took one touch and a shot. But unfortunately, it was an easy save for Nick Pope. So one chance each, really, for both sides, which kind of tells you that it's not been the most... bonfire is still going on. It hasn't been the greatest of first half. So Newcastle have been slightly wasteful with their crossing as well. A few have gone too high, too heavy, not hitting the right men. So I think if Newcastle can be a bit more clinical, I think it could be a long half for Chelsea. I think someone has been poor passing-wise. I think Bruno Guimaraes has struggled a little bit. A lot of his key passes have been misplaced and mishit. I think he'll want to improve that. I mean, obviously, short passing, his ticking of the game has been very impressive. But when it comes to those key passes in behind or getting someone running at the defence, he's just misplaced them a little bit, Bruno Guimaraes. But hopefully we'll see that change going into the second half. The second half will be getting back underway in around 5 minutes' time. But it has been, you can tell it's a game between two sides that have got high quality players on the pitch. You can definitely tell that, even though it's been cagey at times and not many chances. I think that sometimes shows when you've got a good two teams playing against each other. When it's quite cagey and a lack of chances, it usually means neither team really wants to give the other team much in terms of chances anyway. But it's interesting as well for Chelsea, their top goal scorers in the Premier League have 3. Sterling, who's ill and not in the team, and Havertz, who's on the bench, dropped from the game against Arsenal. They struggled against Arsenal. They played a 4-2-3-1, and Havertz kind of played in that number 10 role and struggled quite a lot, got outran in that midfield of Arsenal's with Xhaka and Thomas Partey. Can we get some goals in this second half? And who will they go to? Because at the minute, if anyone's going to score, it's probably Newcastle, because they have created more chances, half chances, and they need to start getting their chances on target as well. Because it's all good making and having shots, but if you're not at least testing the keeper, then there's no point. So we had an early change as well with Loftus-Cheek. So Chelsea have only got 2 substitute slots left where they can make 4, but they've only got 2 chances to do it. I wonder if they'll bring on anyone. I think the choice of Armando Broja up front was a good one. I do think he's played well with limited service and supply. So maybe if they'll get someone alongside him to help him out a bit more. I don't know. I don't quite think Conor Gallagher's working up there as much in terms of holding it up. I don't know. I just think a Havertz would be better than a Gallagher where Gallagher's playing. I think Gallagher in the midfield would work well because obviously he's energetic, he can deal with the Newcastle press. I just feel like Armando Broja needs someone up there who's more attacking and striker-minded, so maybe a bit like a Havertz and a Aubameyang, maybe someone like that. But I'm not Graham Potter, so we'll have to see what he decides to do. Second half is coming up in a couple minutes' time. But I'm going to try and do some World Cup commentaries as well. Can't guarantee, because being a final year college student is highly stressful. A lot more stressful than you think, unfortunately. So I will try. I can't guarantee I'll be doing any group stage games. If I was to do a group stage game, it'd have to be between 2 larger countries in terms of footballing ability. So that could be like maybe a Portugal, Uruguay, a Spain, Germany, a France, Denmark, that kind of game. But I definitely want to try and cover some knockout games for sure. But we'll have to wait and see. But I will attempt to bring some World Cup coverage to the channel if if the opportunity arises. Some of the Arsenal players have been called up as well to the Brazil national team. Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli. Don't quite think Gabriel got picked. Which, with Gabriel, it's an interesting one with Gabriel from Arsenal, because he's a really good... Like, you can't be top of the league and not have 2 good centre-backs. Like, he's a good centre-back. But, when he just has his moments of, erratic nature, you just think, in a World Cup high-pressure moment, would he be able to stay focused and calm? So I can half see why he didn't make it, but then he is a very good centre-half who is World Cup quality. So I think it's an interesting one with the centre-back Gabriel, but he's not made it. The other 2 Gabriels have, which is obviously, I say great news for Arsenal. I mean, it's not great because they probably want them to not go and stay and be fit, ready for the title push they've got in the second half of the season. But I'm not sure. It looks like we're getting a Chelsea change. And Potter's listened to me, but not quite listened to me. He's going to bring on an attacker, maybe to help Armando Broja up front. But he's not bringing on Aubameyang. He's not bringing on Havertz. He's bringing on Christian Pulisic, the American. Signed for £57.6 million in the January of 2019, then joined the squad in the new season of that year in June of 2019. I've read that Leeds were possibly interested in bringing him in to Elland Road, maybe on a loan, because he's had limited game time so far this season in terms of starts. I don't think he started as many times as he would like, because he is going to come on for his 13th Premier League appearance, where he's got the 1 goal, and that came in Chelsea's last win, and that was to Wolves at home. As the Chelsea players come back out, I wonder who will be replaced, as they may be ditching the back four, maybe. That would be risky because, I think Chelsea could do with having more defenders on the pitch, I think. It gives them a bit more stability. We'll have to wait and see. But the second half will be getting underway in a couple of minutes' time. They are interesting. Or is Pulisic going as a wing-back? I think it could be a Pulisic as a wing-back. 28, Cesar Azpilicueta, who started the game as a right centre-back, then went to right wing-back after Loftus-Cheek was brought off with an injury. He is brought off and is replaced by Christian Pulisic, so we'll have to see where the American plays. Interesting swap from Graham Potter, who's currently chatting with his assistant manager of Ben Dawson. But it looks like Christian Pulisic has took a spot on the left-hand side. So maybe it looks like Gallagher's gone to a right wing-back role. Very interesting. You can see how Chelsea are struggling for wing-backs for sure. It looks like Gallagher is playing wing-back as Newcastle are going to kick off for us. Kicking from left to right. Chelsea from right to left. And we're underway for the second half as it is currently Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. Yeah, it looks like Pulisic is playing on the left. And I do think it's going to be a makeshift Conor Gallagher at wing-back. How interesting from Graham Potter. His share swings it towards Longstaff, deflects instead into the feet of Chris Wood, who holds up beautifully and sprays it wide left to Dan Burn, who gets inside the Chelsea half, has to turn back instead, but then turns forward, then turns back again, and then finds Bruno Guimaraes, first time pass forward to Joe Willock. He's just keeping hold of it for now, and lays it off into Fabian Schär. He then finds Trippier, looks for a ball in behind, just too heavy for Chris Wood, can be collected calmly by Edouard Mendy. Plays in Thiago Silva, back across to Mendy, who's been pressed by Chris Wood, who slides across, can't block the clearance forward. It comes off the head of Armando Broja, and it will fall to Christian Pulisic, but he can't get it out of his feet. Pope back to Nick Pope, who takes a touch and clears himself. Always finds Conor Gallagher at the right wing-back area for the Blues. Good possession for Chelsea with Chalobah. Great ball inside to Jorginho, who then quickly finds Conor Gallagher on the right. He lays it off into Mount, back down the line for Gallagher. Tries to find the clip clearance. Comes off Bruno Guimaraes, then back off Gallagher. And that'll be a goal kick for Newcastle early on, 2 minutes in. More positive so far for Chelsea. Chelsea have gone more attacking, taking off right wing-back Azpilicueta, putting Conor Gallagher in his spot, and then bringing on Pulisic to play further forward. Him getting the nod ahead of Havertz and Aubameyang. Nick Pope with the goal kick. Up it goes. Towards Trippier. Does win the header towards Wood, but it's won ahead of him by Thiago Silva, who lifts the ball towards Pulisic. His header inside's gone to Bruno Guimaraes, who is fouled and tripped by Mason Mount. And I think he'll escape a booking, interestingly enough. Thought that was a bit late there from Mason Mount. Thought that may have been deserving of a yellow, but Robert Jones keeps the cards in the pockets for now. Trippier takes a quick one. Down the line to Almiron. Helps it on once more to Joe Linton towards the corner flag, where he's met by Jorginho and he spins him beautifully, leaves him on the deck and he gets the ball across. It's too high. Will fall all the way over towards Armando Broja, who takes on Dan Burn. Being chased down by Longstaff, who will not let him go any further. Throwing for Chelsea. It's a great chance. It's a great skill from Joe Linton towards the corner flag. Turns Jorginho with a body feint. Leaves him on the deck. And then the cross is high and towards the back post where there's no black and white shirt. Poor decision making there from Joe Linton. And we stay at 0-0. As Newcastle have it back at the moment with a header away. As far as Gallagher heads it towards Mount, who brings it down beautifully and gets it back to the former Palace man who was on loan there last season. A pass back from Kovacic, looks for Jorginho, can't find Chris Wood, who will look to set away Joe Willock. But that's not without the slight challenge of Trevor Chalobah, who doesn't let Joe Willock go any further. Then a throw-in, which is taken to Guimaraes. The pass does fall to Longstaff. Now out wide it goes to Trippier. 4 minutes into the second half. It's a better start for both teams. Looks a bit more open, the game. Trippier looks for Almiron in the box, but it's well cut out by Lewis Hall. And it's played forward by Koulibaly to Breuer, who finds Mount. Back to Breuer, who's just drifting wide right. Keeps the ball under his spell before it being taken off him. Only as far as Jorginho. He goes forward to Pulisic, who keeps it. The American, who will be going to the World Cup as well himself. He's got 21 goals for his country in 52 appearances. And here he is, getting beyond Joe Linton on the halfway. Laying it off to Gallagher, who can't go inside because he's been blocked off. And throwing taken quickly by Newcastle. Stopped in their tracks, but they'll take it quickly again. Down the Newcastle left is Willock, poked inside to Wood. Back out to Joe Linton. Good switch out to Trippier. He brings it down very nonchalant. Almiron got the overlap of Trippier. Finds him towards the far post. Joe Linton back inside towards Longstaff. Wood lays it off to Guimaraes. Great block. And away it goes towards Botman. He works it back out to Almiron. First big chance the second half. Trippier over the top ball to Almiron, who hooks it into the box, and it's lifted over the bar by Longstaff. 2 big chances for the central midfielder, and none of them have been taken. First chance here, Almiron find the upper half of Trippier to the far post where Joe Linton headed it inside towards Longstaff. His shot was deflected towards Wood, who laid it off for Guimaraes, whose shot was blocked, and they recycled it back out to the right with Almiron, who found Trippier, lifted it over back towards the Paraguayan, who first time hooked a ball into the box, and it was swept forward towards goal first time by Longstaff, and it was over the bar. So 2 chances for the central midfielder, neither taken, and it stays Newcastle 0, Chelsea 0. Frustration for the central midfielder. Warning signs for the Blues. As Hall can't keep it in, poor ball from Koulibaly. And I feel like Newcastle, with the game opening up slightly, they're going to really go for this first goal of the game. Thanks to everyone who's liked and subscribed and is viewing. Very much appreciated. 6.5 minutes into this second half. Fabian Schär lifts the ball up towards Joe Linton, header won by Thiago Silva. Can't be controlled by Gallagher. Header won by Joe Linton to Joe Willock on the left-hand side in the box. Tries to poke it across towards Wood. It's dealt with by Thiago Silva. And Trevor Chalobah can clip down the line. Mason Mount and Armando Breuer getting each other's way. Back in possession of Newcastle. So with Guimaraes. Longstaff. Wood. Great ball out to Fabian Schär, who's on the halfway line, but it means they get out to the space where Newcastle have bodies, but Almiron gives away in the final third to Lewis Hall. He'll look for the overlap of Trippier. Lewis Hall, number 67, gets beyond one challenge, don't get beyond Almiron. Chance could be on here. They've got an overflow of bodies again. Newcastle on the right. Finds Trippier, though, towards the corner flag. Has to slow it down. And he goes inside towards Longstaff, met by a heavy challenge from Lewis Hall, but it's fair. And it can be cleared by Koulibaly. And as far as Fabian Schär, he recycles back to Sven Botman. Works out wide to Fabian Schär again in a right-back position. Clips into the box towards Chris Wood. Comes off him last and he'll chase his own ball. Where Lewis Hall will get there. Tries to chop behind Chris Wood. Tackled by the striker. And the ball will fall for a goal kick. For Chelsea. Well dealt with there by Lewis Hall because he's slightly smaller than Chris Wood, who is 6'3", and Lewis Hall is only 5'10". If Arsenal win today, do you think they'll win it this year? Not guaranteed. I don't think they'll guarantee win it because they haven't gone through a bad spell of form yet. And I feel like that's yet to come. That don't mean they won't win the league. Because their bad form might only last 2 games. It might only last 3. I just think with the lack of Premier League winning experience they've got, I just think it's too early to say that they'll win it. Even if they win tonight and they get a 5-point advantage on City. You know, City have been there and done it how many times from behind in terms of clawing back point disadvantages. You know, they did it against United back in 2011, 2012. They did it against Liverpool as well. in the 2018-2019 season. So they've come from behind before and they've won the league. So I think Arsenal have to be careful. I definitely think they can win it for sure, but I just think it's too early to call so far this season, because injuries could hit yet, bad forms yet to hit. You don't know who's going to come back from the World Cup in what kind of form. So we'll just have to wait and see, but they're in a very healthy position. Let's just say that. A scuff cleared from Mendy. Falls only as far as Guimaraes. Pressure being lumped on Chelsea. Ball through toward Joe Linton by Cher. Cut out by Jorginho. Loops in the air and brought down by Pulisic. Pokes it to Lewis Hall, left wing back. It's on the halfway line. Gets beyond one. Can't get beyond the second of Kieran Trippier. And wins the throw-in though for his side there. Lewis Hall, well won by the left wing back. Quick throwing down the line, looking for Breuer. Loses that straight away. Comes off Cher and Trippier. He work it between them both successfully. But it's a better start for Newcastle this first 10 minutes of the second half. Chelsea not been as good. Fabian Cher clips the ball down the right channel. It's dealt with by Thiago Silva to Lewis Hall, who goes back to Edouard Mendy in the Chelsea goal. Well dealt with there. The long ball from Newcastle, not causing danger for Chelsea. As Edouard Mendy clips out towards Conor Gallagher at right wing back. Can't head down the line to a blue shirt. Be a throw in for Newcastle. Just like they're getting a bit overwhelmed here, Chelsea, with the Newcastle press. They have won it back, though, from the throw-in. Good ball forward to Pulisic here. Trippier, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's going to pick up a booking. Thumbs up to the referee and he takes it. On the halfway line, cynically brings down Pulisic. He knows he had to bring him down to stop the counter-attack. That did look quite dangerous in the end there for Newcastle. So, yellow card for Trippier, third of the season. Rightly given from Robert Jones, and he accepted his punishment. So Jorginho does have the free kick on the halfway, plays it forward through to Armando Breuer, who finds bucket ton of space here for Gallagher on the right. Final third, cross, far post, too heavy. Really wasted there from Conor Gallagher, and that'll be a goal kick for Nick Pope. He'll be frustrated there, Gallagher. He knows he should have done better. He needs to show Southgate why he's put the faith in him to call him up to the England team for the World Cup. But Chelsea's position last year is pretty set from early on. From game week 15 to 38, after the end of each game week of the 15 to 38, they didn't move from third. So it was a pretty coasting season last year. This season it's not quite been the same. Obviously, currently as low as 8th at the minute. Unfortunately for Graham Potter. Ball up the field looking for Wood by Pope. Won by Chalobah. Cleared by Mendy. All as far as the head of Guimaraes, who only finds Pulisic, who's hooked it down the line and in behind looking for Breuer, but it's really well dealt with by Fabian Cher. Really good centre-half. Like the full back line, really, as he finds Trippier. Ball down the right channel for Almiron in the final third towards the corner flag. Koulibaly stayed with him. He goes inside to Longstaff. Trippier's got up the field to support, and he has it. And he finds Guimaraes, the number 39, across to Dan Burn, as they try the left-hand side this time, with Joe Linton finding their way through to Willock. A ball across the goal, and it's nearly fell to Chris Wood. It's been placed behind by Lewis Hall for the corner. But Willock has been so good today. I've been really impressed with the central midfielder. As the corner's been taken quickly, Guimaraes back out to the takers of Almiron and Trippier. Guimaraes trying to 1-2 with Almiron. It's cut out by Gallagher. He needs to clear the midfielder. He instead goes to his left to Lewis Hall, who then clips down the line. Only as far as Dan Burn. He gets it forward, looking for Almiron. I think he was offside, though, as the ball was played. He was. So that'll be a free kick for Chelsea in their left-back area. Really good ball from Willock, got beyond Chalobah and Thiago Silva and Koulibaly. And unfortunately for Newcastle, Chris Wood. That's where Lewis Hall could then just play it behind for a corner. Koulibaly's now gone down. Not a great sight for Senegalese people. The World Cup is literally a week away. He's on that plane for Senegal, but he's currently down injured. He penned a 4-year contract when he joined Chelsea in the summer for £33 million. He was valued as high as £75 million 3 years ago. Looks like a right leg problem, similar to Loftus-Cheek. Hopefully it's nothing serious for Koulibaly. I think it's when he was stretching for that cross that Joe Willock made. Yeah, he felt it. I think it's the right hamstring. I think he's pulled his right hamstring. When that ball went across from Willock, he stretched to try and block. And he felt something, Koulibaly. Not a great view for the Senegalese international. He's back on his feet, so hopefully everything will be okay. Back on his feet as he walks to the side of the pitch. Callum Wilson, I think, is getting stripped off and he's going to be ready to come on. Came off at half-time last week without a goal due to illness. Got that World Cup call-up. I think he's just sat down for the minute on the bench. Don't think he's quite coming on yet. Edouard Mendy sends it forward, headed won by Longstaff. Alongside Jorginho heads it back forward for Chelsea. Pulisic will give chase, and he's not quite kept it on though with his heavy touch. I think Koulibaly's also back on as well. Trippier throws into Guimaraes, loses out to Mount, but he pokes it out as far as another throw in for Newcastle. Good early pressure there from Mason Mount on the throw-in straight away, no messing around. Thrown by Trippier in a dangerous area, and it's had to be dealt with heavily by Botman, and the play carries on because the referee's seen it as a collision. Gallagher was the one who was caught late by Botman. Botman did get the ball, and it was more of a coming together than a foul, but still a heavy one for Conor Gallagher. Let's have a look. The ball was there to be won. Botman got there first, and they just collided together. I don't think there was nothing more than that, to be honest. Got the ball. Bit of a follow through, but he's going to follow through kicking the ball like that. I just think it's a bit of a coming together. Gallagher's got in knowing that he's going to get a bit of Botman if he doesn't get the ball. Back on the way though, nothing done there. No punishments for anyone, because Robert Jones did let the play continue. Played over an hour now, and Fabian Schär gets it to Trippier. Into the Chelsea half we go. Chris Wood, good layoff into Longstaff. Fancies a cross, puts it in. Header won by Thiago Silva. Only as far as Guimaraes. Tries to get beyond Gallagher, but he does win the ball fairly to Pulisic, who then sends away Broja on the right. He will get there ahead of Sven Botman. Chelsea try and break. Plenty of Newcastle bodies have got back, but there is Chelsea plays up there as well. Broja holding it up, and he can't do it for so much longer because he's been tackled there by Joe Linton. And it's an attack wasted for Chelsea. But then they've got it back with Thiago Silva intercepting a Longstaff pass. And Chelsea are now team back in possession. Back out to Gallagher on the right. Looks from out on the edge. It dummies itself to Mateo Kovacic. It's a good block from Schär. And it falls to Almiron. He sets away Guimaraes in the Newcastle half. He's going to be brought down by Mount. Fairly, says the referee. And we continue with Chelsea on the ball. With Kovacic on halfway on the left to Jorginho. Back to Kovacic. We're yet to see a Newcastle change. Wonder when that will be made. We've got two Chelsea ones so far. One in the 5th minute with Loftus-Cheek being replaced by Thiago Silva due to injury. And then Azpilicueta came off at half-time for Christian Pulisic. So a positive change from Graham Potter. Not quite worked yet. As Kovacic wants the free kick for a handball. But the referee said it came off the chest. He tries to get beyond. I think it was Dan Burn. Ball finds Willock. Great pace. Ball across. Straight into the hands of Mendy. As he kept it in. Newcastle fans were claiming that it was corner. But it hadn't gone out of play, said the referee and the linesman. And the game is really starting to open up because Chelsea are getting space in behind and chances. Kovacic Goes to Pulisic, who's peeled wide left. He goes back inside towards Mason Mount. Back out wide to Kovacic. Slowing the game down here, Chelsea slightly. Lewis Hall. Koulibaly inside his own half. Goes all the way back to Edouard Mendy. Goes to Jorginho. Chelsea play out from the back. Newcastle keep up the press. Sending Koulibaly along to Breuer. He gets it to Mount. Great skill. Flicks over his head trying to get beyond Guimaraes, but he goes down quite easily there. Mounts. But Chelsea have it back. Trippier gives it away. Kovacic sets away Pulisic. This could be a big chance for Chelsea. He gets away from Cher, but not Trippier. Great recovery from the captain. He needed to as well because he gave the ball away, but so does Guimaraes to Gallagher. 1-2 with Breuer. Conor Gallagher. Great save, Nick Pope. Newcastle causing their own downfall in this game. They've got away with that big time. Trippier gave the ball away. He won it back. Guimaraes gave the ball away. And Nick Pope came to his rescue. Great reaching save to his left. He had to spring quickly to dive with his arm out to save. And he did that very successfully, Nick Pope. Big save from the big man. And Gallagher, who was looking for his second goal of the season. They would have both come away from home. But unfortunately, he was stopped by the man mountain of Nick Pope. As before the corner's taken for Chelsea, we've got a stoppage. Robert Jones having a word with Armando Breuer and Dan Burn, who are getting a little bit too close to each other for the referee's liking. In swinger by Lewis Hall towards the far post where Thiago Silva went for it, asking a bit too much of the Brazilian. And he heads wide for a goal kick. Can't deny that Thiago Silva wanted to win that header, but he couldn't quite win it successfully. Kind of came off the top of his head. There was no real direction for it. It's Newcastle play out from the back. Callum Wilson, bib on, but no training top on. He's got his kit on. He's ready to come on, but he's got the bib on for now as Eddie Howe just hesitates with the change. Botman clips it wide right to Trippier. Nods it forward to Joe Linton, who's got a bit of space to hook it over his head and find Almiron in behind. He gets Harry Koulibaly inside from the right towards the left-hand side. He keeps going and Willock takes over! That is the breakthrough! And there's no one who deserves it more than Joe Willock. He's been unbelievable today. And he gets his goal to match his performance. And despite scoring all the goals recently, it's Almiron who assists. It's his first of the season. And it gives Newcastle the lead that takes them back into the top three. It's so deserved. So deserved. He's been top class today, Joe Willock, in every department, especially getting forward. He's always looked a threat. It's 2 goals now for the season. They've both come in back-to-back matches. Southampton last week. Chelsea at home this week. And Newcastle take the lead. What a finish. Right foot, right on the edge of the box as well. Top right corner. Have a bit of that, Edouard Mendy. You're not stopping that. And what a finish. First time, latches onto the Almiron heavy touch. And he rushes into the corner with a huge knee slide as his celebration. And there was a call for an offside. If you remember, Joe Linton hooked it in behind for Almiron, who then got onto it. And he then latched onto it and drove inside. That wasn't offside. The goal is given. It's Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0. Almiron assist, Willock goal. And like I say, he waited till last week for his first Premier League goal of the season, Joe Willock. He's now got 2 in 2. 68th minute, Newcastle lead. And just as Chelsea had their first big chance of the game through Conor Gallagher, which was saved through Nick Pope, 2 minutes later they go up the other end and Joe Willock scores himself, and it's a fantastic finish. It's so good. I'm just so pleased because he deserves it, because he's been unbelievable today, Joe Willock. He was getting my man of the match as of then, even before the goal. As Chelsea try and play out from the back, Chalobah's been caught late. Nothing given, though, by the referee. It'll be a throw-in for Newcastle to take. Got a lot of draws, but the majority think Newcastle will win, and they have took the lead now. It's been a lot more dominating from Newcastle, especially this second half. It's been less cagey for sure. But it looks like Newcastle could be sending Chelsea to 3 Premier League losses in a row. 5 without a win in the Premier League as well. They have got changes they can make. Got Cucurella, Denis Zakaria, Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz, Aubameyang, who's not even warming up, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who scored against Palace in the Premier League on his debut for Chelsea in the Prem. Free kick was won for Newcastle on the left-hand side from the throw-in. I think it was a late challenge from Trevor Chalobah, and it'll be an in-swinger from Trippier. In it goes. It's an inviting one. Header won by Cher, and it's collected by Edouard Mendy. Could look dangerous there as the flick on from Cher was aimed towards the back post. Edouard Mendy wants to take it quickly, but there's no real options. He has to wait, and he rolls it short to Koulibaly. 20 minutes to go, plus added on time. Koulibaly's ball forward towards Mount is won by Botman, helped on by Willock. And as far as Thiago Silva plays it forward to Jorginho, and he takes over for Chelsea. He's got a contract till 2023 as well, Jorginho. So a lot of clubs looking at him on a free for next summer. As Breuer just fouls Botman on the edge of the 18-yard box. There's a ball over the top looking for him. Was challenged by the Albanian, but illegally, said the referee. Also, interestingly enough for Jorginho, he was born in Brazil despite representing Italy. He did also score last year at this ground for Chelsea. In their 3-0 win, came from the penalty spot. And interestingly enough for Chelsea, 24 of his 26 goals for the club have come from the spot. They're showing replays that Willock goal, and it was unbelievable. The way he latched onto the ball and finished it into the top right corner, unbelievable. And he chases this ball again. Guimaraes sends him away, but Thiago Silva will get there ahead of him and play it back to his goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy. He will not be getting another clean sheet. He's only got one this season in the Prem. Edouard Mendy, that came on the opening day, or the opening game against Everton, in a 1-0 away win, which Jorginho won with a penalty. Lewis Hall gives it away to Trippier. First pass is blocked by Jorginho. His second one sends away Longstaff on the right, and he's caught late there. No, says the referee. Lewis Hall recovered well. And Longstaff will stay down on the pitch after that contact has caused him to be injured. He feels like Lewis Hall fouled him. But that was a bad giveaway from Hall, but he did recover well. Yeah, it's a free kick. Goes through Longstaff, clips the back of his Achilles to win the ball. But Robert Jones didn't give it. Triple change for Chelsea. Their last 3 they can make. Hakim Ziyech is off for Mason Mount, who's on a booking. So Ziyech on for Mount. Who else comes on? Cucurella will come on for Lewis Hall. Premier League debut. Not too bad. Obviously, give away the ball near the end there, but I don't think he's been too bad at all. The 18-year-old, he's replaced by Cucurella. And Armando Breuer will be coming off for Kai Havertz. So the Albanian off for Havertz. 3 goals in the Premier League so far, coming up against West Ham, Wolves and Brighton. He got the winner last year at Stamford Bridge against Newcastle in early March in the 89th minute. Can he come to Chelsea's rescue once again? Here he is. He heads it backwards, but it does find Jorginho, heads it to the path of Gallagher, as far as Guimaraes, who hooks away. Thiago Silva. Chalobah, heavy touch into his space. Nice. Really well done by Chalobah. It's now Ziyech on the right. Goes inside to Jorginho. Looking over the top for Havertz. Not cut out successfully, but it is dealt with in the end by Trippier on the edge of the 18-yard box. In the air it goes, flicked on by Chris Wood. Only as far as Thiago Silva. Great ball forward in between the lines for Conor Gallagher. Then out to Ziyech on the right. Left foot cross comes off the backside of Dan Burn. And it will drop to Chalobah, who tries to head it inside. Just about gets it to Jorginho, who then finds Thiago Silva. Cucurella to Pulisic. Can't get inside successfully. Won back by Newcastle. It's now with Guimaraes to Trippier. Chops back nicely, gives it back to his goalkeeper who clears up the field towards Wood. It's chested down by Koulibaly, comes back off Wood into the path of Koulibaly. Got away with that one, the Senegalese. It's now with Jorginho, formerly of Napoli. Ziyech plays down the line for Gallagher, who will chase ahead of Botman. Is he brought down illegally? No, he's not. Goal kick. Well dealt with by Botman. Very well dealt with by Botman, who stays down after a bit of a collision with Gallagher. Still yet to use a change as well, Newcastle. Yet to make a change. Till right now, commentator's curse, as usual. Callum Wilson will be coming on. I presume it will be a like-for-like swap with Chris Wood, who's not done too much, not said his name too much, but he has been up there, holding it up every now and then, holding it, releasing it. I'm not saying he's played bad, but I don't think he's been amazing. Just done what a striker needs to do. Chris Wood. He's his second start of the season as well. His first one came against Wolves on game week 4. He scored his first goal of the Premier League season last week. And here we go. He comes off. The New Zealand international Chris Wood will be replaced by Callum Wilson. He makes his 11th appearance of the season in the Premier League. 6 goals. 2 against Aston Villa 2 games ago. He has missed 5 games this season as well through a hamstring injury, but he's made the World Cup squad. He got 8 goals in 18 Premier League games last season after missing 20 games with an injury with a hamstring and calf. His best return in the Premier League came back in the 2018-2019 season for Bournemouth, where he got 14 Premier League goals in 30. So he knows himself, and Southgate knows he's a goal scorer and he can supply goals. Can he do it on the world's biggest stage? And can he do it now as well for Eddie Howe? I think they do need a second goal. So we're back underway after that change. Ball lips in the sky. Won by Guimaraes, showing as far as Conor Gallagher in the Newcastle half. They bring Cucurella into play. Lays it off into Christian Pulisic. Gets the overlap of Cucurella. He doesn't use the Spaniard. He instead goes to Kovacic. Puts it in the box. It's a poor one. Headed away. Only as far as Thiago Silva, who's high up the pitch, around 50 yards away from goal. Works out to the right-hand side to Hakim Ziyech. Wants to get into his left foot. He does do so. Gets the cross. Comes off the head of Botman. Only as far as Kovacic. Nothing's quite sticking for Newcastle when they clear it in the last few minutes. Kovacic given a difficult pass to deal with by Cucurella, but he does keep it for Chelsea. Koulibaly goes for the switch towards Ziyech. Header intercepted by Dan Burn. We're throwing for Trevor Chalobah to take. We're in the 76th minute of the match. Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0. Joe Willock, the difference so far. His goal 10 minutes ago, splitting the two sides. Gallagher falls over the ball and Willock wins it. Inside by Joe Linton to Guimaraes. Finds Callum Wilson. Can't hold it up. Stays in the Newcastle half and it stays in Chelsea possession. Kovacic. Thiago Silva goes for a long diagonal switch looking for Havertz on the edge of the box, but it's a well-won header by Kieran Trippier, who diverts it back to his goalkeeper. That's such reassuring defending to see as a fan. Such pressure he was under, but he was still able to head it back to his goalkeeper there, Kieran Trippier. As Fabian Schär sends a ball long looking for Callum Wilson. It's nowhere near the former Bournemouth man. It'll fall straight through to Edouard Mendy, who rolls it out quickly to Thiago Silva, the number 6 for Chelsea. His only appearance against Newcastle came here last season when they won 3-0. But they could break away here. Pulisic has got it on the left for Chelsea. He enters the box on the far left. He gets a cross in. It's a really teasing ball, but no one's there. Dan Burn panics, kicks it out for a corner kick. That's a good ball, that. Really is. Should have done better. No one at the far post for Chelsea, unfortunately. They do win a corner. In swinger it will be from Hakim Ziyech. It's a teasing ball towards Kai Havertz. He wins the header and he sends it back across. No one's there for Chelsea. And it's a goal kick. Should have diverted it towards goal. I think that's what he was trying, Havertz. I don't think he was trying to head it back towards anyone. I think he was trying to head it towards the far post into the goal, but he's completely miscued the header and wide, and away it goes for a Newcastle goal kick. Really poor from the 6'2" German. 6'4" German, sorry. Nick Pope with the goal kick. He wants to make it 4 clean sheets in his last 6 before the World Cup in the Premier League. Oh, Wilson flick on. Almiron flick on. Out to Trippier on the right. Runs out of the pitch, unfortunately. And it can be a throw-in for Chelsea. Unlucky there from the captain Trippier. Cucurella with the throw-in. Not taking it too quickly, mainly due to the fact that there's no real options. He just throw it down the line to Havertz. He flicks on as far as Guimaraes, who loses out though to the German. Took too long on it there, the Brazilian. And then works it to Chalobah on the right. Still in the Chelsea half though. It's gone to Ziyech, who then sticks it on Thiago Silva. Still on the ball here, the former PSG and AC Milan centre-back. Finds it to Hakim Ziyech. 10 minutes of the 90 to go. Ziyech goes for a ball. It's an audacious one, but it does find Pulisic, who just drops it off to Cucurella out wide left. The former Brighton man signed in the summer for £60 million. Pulisic, Havertz, Kovacic to Cucurella on the left. They've got bodies in the box and in it goes! It's there to be won. Pulisic, no. Cleared away. I think as it hit the near post, Havertz got a touch on it. Handball. I think there was a handball in there. Free kick for Newcastle. A sigh. Relief. Pulisic to Havertz, out to Kovacic, worked it to Cucurella, and as he got a ball into the near post, Havertz got a nick on it ahead of Pope, and then it was there to be won for Pulisic, but in the end he couldn't quite bring it down. Actually, it was missed by Havertz. He came off the knee of Pope, and then unfortunately Pulisic couldn't bring it down under his spell and get a shot away, and Newcastle survive. Stoppage in play currently. Not quite sure why. I'll let you know soon as. Or Sven Botman's down now. Do you know, honestly, he might have, Sven Botman isn't even going to the World Cup, and yet he's going down. Newcastle making another change? No, it's just Fabian Schär going over to get a drink. Interesting fact, I'm not going to say this is mine, this is from Sky that they've brought on the screen here. In the Premier League this season, Sven Botman and Fabian Schär have played together 11 times. 6 wins, 5 draws, no defeats. I think that says everything you need to know, really. What a partnership. Like I say, in 2018, Fabian Schär was signed for £3 million. He's now making his 114th appearance for Newcastle, and then Sven Botman they bought for £35 million in the summer. Those two centre-halves are less than £40 million. Can we make a reminder that Wesley Fofana in the summer was signed for what, £75 million? We always go back to it, but it's hard to ignore. Harry Maguire signed for 80. It's ridiculous, his back four, how much it's worth and how good it is as well. Joe Linton tries to break through, dispossessed fairly, and Chelsea are going to start going for it more now. As Newcastle have a 1-goal lead, it's Chalobah who brings it forward into the Newcastle half, finds Gallagher back into Chalobah who stayed forward, gets it through to Ziyech on the right. He's been closed down here by Guimaraes, but he's allowed the cross in. It's cleared by Fabian Schär. A little bit sliced, but it got the distance. It's only now with Koulibaly, out to Cucurella on the left, inside to Christian Pulisic. It's Kovacic, number 8. Bit of calm, bit of patience needed from Chelsea. They can't be rushing this. They know a chance will arise if they're patient. They've got the quality on the pitch to score at any time. Chalobah, Thiago Silva, Kovacic sits down, Longstaff, but then gives it away to Joe Linton. It's now Callum Wilson. He needs to do his bit of hold-up play as well. He's caught late by Kovacic. Really well done from Callum Wilson, winning the free kick there on the halfway. That's what he needs to do when he gets it. He needs to be able to hold the ball up. Almiron got the assist. He wasn't quite aiming for Joe Willock. It wasn't really a pass which got to the former Arsenal midfielder. It was actually Almiron was striding inside looking for a shot of his own, and his touch was a bit too heavy, and it ended up being such a bad touch that it was put on a plate for Joe Willock, who then struck and scored, and he will be replaced. He's worked his socks off. He gets a standing ovation. He's my man of the match. He was my man of the match before the goal. He was that good. He got his well-deserved goal, and he's been replaced by Jacob Murphy, who did start their last Premier League game against Southampton. He was dropped to the bench, and he will come on for the remaining 5.5 minutes, plus added on time. Guimaraes forward to Callum Wilson, finds Almiron. Heavy touch again, won by Jorginho, forced back to Mendy, who clears. Only as far as Dan Burn, who heads it inside to Joe Linton. Great touch, keeps it beautifully. Sven Botman is struggling, but he got a great pass out to Murphy. Tries the 1-2 with Joe Linton, but Trevor Chalobah just about kicks it back off Murphy for a goal kick. Good defending that by Chalobah. But it doesn't look like Sven Botman is struggling badly. They might even have to make a change with the Dutchman. But they continue for now. Yeah, I think they kicked the ball down. Yeah, Sven Botman's gone down. He might have to be taken off here. And the only reasonable replacement they have on the bench, Newcastle, is Jamal Lascelles, club captain. He's only got the 4 Premier League appearances, 2 of them in his last 5. Not started many this season. Has got 1 goal in that game against Tranmere in the League Cup in the second round. Wow, I don't think they trust Jamal Lascelles. They're going to bring on Matt Targett, the left back, and I think they're going to move Dan Burn into centre back. So the man who was on loan in the second half of last season, Matt Targett, then brought on a permanent in July. Looks like he'll be coming on for Sven Botman, and Dan Burn will have to go in as centre back for the remaining 4 minutes plus added on time in the game. Yep, change made. Sven Botman off, Matt Targett on. Sven Botman also getting a wild round of applause from his Newcastle fans. Him and Fabian Schär have got one hell of a partnership. Hopefully the injury is not too serious, and even if it is half serious, they've got a 6-week break now where they can get him back fit because he isn't going to the World Cup with the Dutch national team. Matt Targett's first touch is going back to Nick Pope. Slams the ball away up towards Jacob Murphy, but it'll be Trevor Chalobah to win the header, and he'll hand it back to his goalkeeper. Smart defending from the 23-year-old who's had 3 loan spells at his time at Chelsea. One of them came abroad with FC Lorient in France. In his previous 27 Premier League games in his career, Chalobah, he'd only lost 2, and they came in his last 2 games. Arsenal and Brighton, it looks like it could be 3 in a row for him and for the Chelsea team. Thiago Silva, sprayed ball, wide left looking for Cucurella, intercepted by the head of Kieran Trippier. Falls to Almiron, who keeps it in, wins the throw-in, gets the kick off Kovacic. Brilliant midfield play from the tiny Paraguayan. Guimaraes gets the throw-in. Gets it inside to Wilson. Bit of space here for Newcastle. They need a second. Wilson to Almiron. He's been caught by Koulibaly. Now be a yellow card on the edge of the box on the right-hand side. Yellow card for the Senegalese. Only making his 9th Premier League appearance out of a possible 14. Koulibaly. He knew he had to commit and try and get there, and he just caught the leg of Almiron. Caught his trailing leg as he was set to sprint away. Second booking of the season for Koulibaly. He struggled on that Chelsea left, having to deal with Trippier and Almiron. Trippier's there for the out-swinging option. Matt Targett's there for the in-swinging option. Heading towards the 90th minute. We're a minute away from it. And Newcastle are nearly set to keep their unbeaten streak alive at home. Matt Targett's walked away. So it will be Trippier to put an out-swinging ball in. They could really do with a second here, Newcastle, just to really settle any nerves that are probably tangibly being felt by the supporters. Trippier, it's another low one across, dealt with by Ziyech. I mean, it's great thinking, but they've got to get them working, those ones off the ground, because they've looked promising, but just no one's been there. And if they have, they've missed the ball, like Fabian Schär in the first half. Free kick there. Trippier fouls Cucurella. Just needs to be careful. Trippier does have a book into his name. Taken quickly by Koulibaly across Thiago Silva, just above the 18-yard box. We're about to find out how much added on time. I'm going to go with maybe 3 or 4. We've had a few stoppages of injuries, so could even stretch for a 5-minute add-on. We'll have to wait and see in 8 seconds' time. Thiago Silva gets it into the Newcastle half by finding Hakim Ziyech, former Ajax man. Here we go with it, the 90th minute. How long's added on? 7! 7 minutes of added on time. What? I know we've had stoppages, but what stoppages have we had for 7? Longstaff went down, Botman's gone down. 7 minutes? Wow. 7 minutes it is. Plenty of time for Chelsea to try and get an equaliser here as they're deep in the Newcastle half. Chalobah will pull back in the box, but it's fell to the feet of Guimaraes. So now with Joe Linton. Down the line to Guimaraes. Good 1-2 between the two Brazilians. Stuck in the corner flag though here, Guimaraes, as he wins the free kick off Conor Gallagher. Gallagher is furious, gives a few fair words to Robert Jones. Not happy with the referee's decision there, but it's a great free kick win by the Brazilian midfielder, Guimaraes, who scored 5 goals last season, all coming for Newcastle. Didn't score in his 25 Lyon appearances last season. Came to Newcastle and scored 5. Pope will take this free kick on the left-hand side for Newcastle. Up the field it goes. It's a big kick up towards Wilson. Can't win the header on Chalobah, but the Chalobah header falls to Almiron. Back to Callum Wilson. Looks to thread it through towards Almiron. It's deflected. It's deflected through, and Mendy's just about avoided the corner. I thought that went out for a corner, but the referee believes he kept that in. I am gobsmacked he's not given a corner there. He thinks Mendy's kept that in, but I don't think he has. I think that went out for a corner, but the referee decides for a throw-in. We've played 2 of the 7 minutes added on. Target throwing down the line to Joe Linton. He goes straight to the corner flag, being bullied by both Ziyech and Gallagher. And he wins a corner. At least he got that one right. I don't think the Newcastle fans would have been happy if he didn't give a corner twice. But I do think that genuinely was a corner, though. Came off his Ziyech last, I believe. Be trippy to take an in-swinger. They're going to still go for it, I think. I don't think they're going to stay in the corner. I can't see how many are in the box. It's a decent amount in the box. There's 4, 5 of them in the box. It's swung in towards Wilson, header 1. And it'll be collected by Target, who heads it in the sky. Comes off the head of Guimaraes twice. He doesn't know where the ball is. Needs to be dealt with here. And Joe Linton takes over, gets it back to Dan Burn. And that's better from Newcastle. Back out to Trippier. 3 minutes now played of the 7. Guimaraes on the halfway line, on the far left. Wins a throw-in. No, he doesn't. He runs out of play. Tried to get a nick off Jorginho, but it didn't arrive for him. Chelsea need to create a chance quick. Chalobah down the line to Gallagher, who's just inside the Newcastle half. He strides forward. He lays it off to Ziyech. A long diagonal switch he's gone for towards Cucurella, and he finds him. It's a great ball, that, from the Moroccan. And Cucurella goes back to Koulibaly, then across to Thiago Silva on halfway. Back out to Koulibaly on the left. They'll adventure down this left-hand side with Cucurella. Inside to Pulisic, his touch is misplaced, but it'll fall back to Cucurella. He gets it back to Koulibaly. He's on a booking. He dinks it in the box looking for Kai Havertz, and it won't reach him. Out for a goal kick it goes. 3 minutes to play. Havertz frustrated. I think the referee's just calming that situation down. I don't think there's anything serious. I think Fabian Schär has stayed down. I think there's been a yellow card as well for Nick Pope. Fabian Schär was just, I think, went down injured, so Nick Pope delayed the taking of it because he thought his player was injured. The referees took that as time wasting. Schär is feeling the pain in that right hamstring. It might just be cramp. Let's hope that's the case for the Swiss international, because he has got a World Cup to go to after this. He's hobbling. He's struggling. Nick Pope kicks out all the way through to Callum Wilson on the right, who keeps it in. Met by challenger Koulibaly, and he wins a throw-in. No, he wins a free kick, Koulibaly. Oh my word, that's a horrific decision. No way that was a free kick on Koulibaly. He's been given anyway, and Chelsea set off down the right. They've got 120 seconds left to make a difference, or they'll be falling to a third defeat in a row. First time since November of 2015, when they were managed by Jose Mourinho. Free kick there. Dan Burn on Havertz. Jorginho wanted to try and take it quickly, but there's too much going on for it to be taken quickly. Chalobah had it. Oh, it was off the ball, so I don't actually know if that would be given as a free kick. I think there's just a bit of... Oh, is it a free kick? I don't know what's going on. Is it going to be a drop? No, it's a free kick. Mendy's gone up for it. Wow. There's a bit of off the ball there where Burn just shoved Havertz to the ground, and obviously it's been seen as a free kick. Havertz still causing issues in the box in terms of having problems with players. Mendy's gone up for it. We've got a minute left. It's a dangerous area for a free kick. Ziyech is over it with the left foot. If it's cleared, we could get a second for Newcastle. If it's the right ball, we could find an equaliser for Chelsea. In it goes towards Mendy. Header won by Fabian Schär. It falls to Joe Linton. He's got Mendy on his back who's chasing him down. He needs to kick it up the field. Oh, Cucurella intercepts the ball. What a header that is from Cucurella. Chance still alive. He's caught really late there by Longstaff. Advantage played. Kovacic on the edge of the box. Keep running at it. Big challenge from Burn. He won the ball. Falls to Ziyech, who's one of the furthest back for Chelsea. He goes back to Mendy. First time clearance down the left-hand side. What a challenge that was from Dan Burn on Kovacic. He then clears away as it didn't quite drop for Newcastle. For Chelsea's Almiron's played it out wide to Callum Wilson. Gets beyond the challenge of Jorginho. No, he doesn't. He's fouled. No, he's not. The referee's not give it. We've played the 7 minutes. Play's carried on. Bruno Guimaraes tries to take down Pulisic. Can't do so. Joe Linton tackles him. Out for a throw-in. We're calming the play down. We've played the 7 minutes though. There's a book in there for Longstaff because his foul on Cucurella was dangerous. Not a red, but dangerous for sure. Dan Burns was a big tackle. It was strong, but it was very, very, very good because he got the ball cleanly. We've had an extra 30 seconds here. We've still got a throw-in to be taken here for Chelsea. Robert Jones just calming the play down. The referee's whistle's got to go any second now. Oh, we've got a booking here off the pitch. Jamal Lascelles, the captain, he didn't quite come on. He's been booked because he's in the way of Marc Cucurella's throw-in. So we've played an extra minute. We've played 8 minutes around on time and the game's still not over. Newcastle doing it to themselves. Wasting so much time. Longstaff needs to be careful, messing with the ball. Eventually the ball's back with Cucurella. Gets it to Pulisic, you tackle by Almiron, and that will do it. It's delight for Eddie Howe against Graham Potter. There's still afters going on. Havertz not happy with Dan Burn. Dan Burn's giving it out to Cucurella. Havertz not happy. There's afters on the pitch. And it's all through Havertz, who needs to sort his attitude out. He's been like that since he's come on. And it's only because he's losing. Not good enough from Havertz. I understand that he'll definitely would have been getting wound up by the Newcastle players, but he's got to be bigger than that. He's definitely got an attitude problem. Havertz not happy. Taking the mark off what is an unbelievable performance from Newcastle and Joe Willock. It ends Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0. Willock with the winner. At St James's Park, it's just still being slightly diffused. It's still quite hot in the moment down there. But at full time, it ends Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0. Newcastle are delighted. Graham Potter's led his team now to 3 losses in a row in the Premier League. 4 losses in a row in all 3 losses in a row, in all competitions. No, 4 in a row in all competitions. Oh my word. 4 losses in a row in all competitions. Thankfully for him, he's got a World Cup break to sort this out. But what a game for Newcastle United. They go back to 3rd now, a point above Tottenham Hotspur, into the top 3 for Christmas. What a start to the season for Newcastle. I think unfortunately for them, they've got a big break now until the next game after the World Cup. A break they probably don't want, but they're having to deal with it. But what a way to leave themselves to go back for the start of the second half of the season. They will be 3rd. They have 1 loss in the whole season so far. That came away to Liverpool. Chelsea stay 8th. 30 points out of 15 for Newcastle. They are 3rd in the league. Unbeaten at home so far. 1 loss away. They're looking like the real deal now. And Newcastle will walk away with all 3 points. And a gap between them and Chelsea is 9 points. But that's going to be the end of the commentary for me. I don't think there was any red cards given in the afters. If there was, check social media, see if anything was given. But for me, that is the end of the commentary. If you've enjoyed, like and subscribe if you are new. For Newcastle, they sit 3rd. Chelsea slumped to 8th. Potter struggling. House delighted. It's a Willock winner for Newcastle. And it ends Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0.